Death Star, man.
Nobody calls Han Solo a bitch.
Bring him on. I prefer a straight fight to all this sneaking around.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
Oh, come on, bro. It's the wars.
Well, it's been a few months since we've been able to say this, but for once, we've got big news. This is the Wars and More. I'm Joe. Of course, with me is my good buddy Doug. Hey, Doug, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Dude, you laughing right there in the background? Nice and subtly. Totally derailed me.
Hey. Sorry.
I heard it, and I'm like, oh, shit, what am I doing? But yeah, big news. Big news. And look, I'm sure everyone saw this coming. I've been pretty sporadic with releasing shows.
Oh. Gotcha.
Everybody saw this news coming. So we are going to begin, and I don't want to say it this way, but kind of winding down things at the Wars and More.
Right.
We're not winding it down to a finish, but we're winding it down from a full-time deal.
Yeah. That's good. Isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we're not going away. We're not going away. We can't shut up. Come on, are you kidding me?
Exactly. Yes, there's a reason why we talk.
Yes. But, I mean, you've all heard it. Like, Star Wars news is just not as vibrant as it was.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
And like, talking the way we did before is almost taboo now.
Agreed.
It's like, it's weird. It just, Star Wars culture now has made it not fun to talk Star Wars in the way we used to.
Right.
Like, and Star Wars news is not, sort of dynamic enough to be like, oh, we can talk about new stuff every week. It's just not a thing anymore.
Right.
So we've made the decision that when Star Wars isn't really happening, we won't be doing shows. It's simple as that. We'll be showing up when the big stuff's going on.
Yep.
Is that a simple enough way to put it?
I think so.
So it's not going to be an abrupt stop. It'll be a slow wind down, things like that. I think we're going to go to a kind of bi-weekly schedule for a while.
Right.
And then as we get through the Russia stuff that's going on, we'll just be showing up when trailers initially, like, we'll pop on for a reaction, right?
Right. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
We'll show up for probably, instead of doing a weekly show to cover every episode of the week for a series that comes out, we might show up every 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
To discuss that portion of the season, or maybe break this season up into quarters, right?
Sure. That sounds, quarters would be good. I mean, sometimes it's there used to always be enough content to supplement an episode show, right? Our show covering an episode of a Star Wars show, to where, you can talk about that and whatever else is going on, and there's just not much else going on, like, ever.
Right.
I don't know. We are in a doldrum here for sure.
Yes. And, one of the things we set out for is, like, it's going to be the Wars and More. We can talk about anything, right?
Right.
And there just hasn't been enough that, like, look, it's the Wars and More. We want our and more to kind of be in the realm of what Star Wars fans would want to talk about.
Yes.
So it's not just the Wars and More, period. there's plenty of shows that me and Doug have watched that would have been great to talk about, but it really didn't fit the lexicon, right?
Exactly.
It didn't fit something that we thought, oh, our Star Wars fans that are listening to us are going to want to hear about.
Right.
So,
And
yeah,
it's funny because, you and I have, we'll say, varied interests, and some of them are interests that not necessarily most other Star Wars fans might have. In fact, I would venture to say most other Star Wars fans would be kind of turned off by some of our interests.
probably.
If that makes sense. I just, I don't know. I feel like we have more to say on other topics too that really don't fit into what we got going on here.
Right. Look, we love talking Star Wars here and things like that, and things like Indiana Jones fit, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's
if we wanted to talk about Rebel Moon, right? That fits.
Yes.
This fits the Wars and More kind of lexicon. But if we wanted to talk about Turn, how many of you would give a shit?
Right.
Yes. that's where we
Yes.
that's where we hit those kind of roadblocks. It seemed like a great concept from the start, and it just look, there wasn't enough that fits that Star Wars mold to kind of sustain.
Right.
And we've tried, and and we've had a lot of fun along the way.
Absolutely.
Which is why we don't want to leave it completely. So you'll see kind of some changes coming as we wind down full-time the Wars and More. But Doug and I, we can't shut up.
Right.
We want to talk. So we are working on a new podcast project. And in the coming months, there will be more information and details on where to find that. And that's going to be much more broad-reaching. We can talk about much more things. Many more things.
Yes.
It's
going to be more of a grab bag of topics. You're not going to have a theme necessarily, right? So.
And it's not going to be limited to just media, or
right.
Not necessarily media, but movies, comic books, things like that,
pop culture,
entertainment, pop culture.
Yeah.
It's not going to be limited to that. So, you might hear some history topics or some,
Yep.
Hell, we might talk about UFOs for some reason. I don't know.
Hey,
who knows where we'll go?
Exactly.
But I mean, we'll have some focus, but it will be much looser, which should make for more conversation.
I think it will make for a lot broader conversation for sure.
And it might achieve the one thing that we've been trying to do in Star Wars for a while. We might find some things that Doug and I disagree on.
Yeah, exactly. And we have our moments, but
we have our moments, and they're great.
It's hard. It's hard to when your focus is on a franchise that you both love. There's a lot of stuff to love about it, and not so much stuff to argue about. So yeah, it's funny that way. I don't know.
I mean, we've had our moments where
we have.
I disliked something and you liked it, and it's well, okay, or vice versa,
right?
And that, but those are far and few between. We need a Star Wars fan like my sister, who's been on the show a couple times, to kind of balance that in order to make this argumentative Star Wars podcast.
Right.
We need a new age Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Like even Hunter, who's like newer Star Wars. He just likes the old stuff, so we just agree with him too. It
Yeah.
just didn't work out.
Yeah, yeah. He was brought up on the old stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah. So as you see the changes, the delays, things like that, this is why we are moving towards a new project. The Wars of More is not going to die. We're not giving up on it. You know, we love doing this. We love talking Star Wars. And we're going to keep doing it. But it will be at a much lower frequency. It'll be when it matters.
Yeah. When there's something juicy, yeah.
When there's something to talk about.
Yep.
Because, I mean, it's really hard to sustain a show on 3 15-minute episodes of Star Wars. And no news whatsoever about anything else.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the chance of getting bashed for talking about how much we love Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
You know, so
there's that too. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's what it is. It's time. It's time.
It's time.
So, but yeah, stay tuned. We'll talk about what we got coming next. Really think a lot of people that are listening to this show will enjoy what we got coming next. But if you don't, you probably won't care for this episode, but maybe the next episode. Like, it's going to be a show that is not going to grab everyone for every single episode.
Right.
But
Yes.
it will be varied enough to where you might even be curious to listen to a topic you don't give a shit about.
Yep.
So. Ooh, all right. Fate of the Empire. Or Tales of the Empire.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. That's something we haven't covered. That's funny.
Well, we had Tales of the Jedi, right?
Yep.
So immediately I thought, like, oh, the antithesis of that is Fate of the Jedi. No, it's
Right?
it's Tales of the Empire.
That's hilarious.
Oh, damn you, EU brain.
Right.
Tales of the Empire. So this is the second half. This is the Barriss Offee half.
Right.
The
The
one
much
we were
anticipated. Right? I mean,
yes.
fans have been dying to know what has happened to Barriss.
And based on the trailer, fans were getting all the fan service they wanted with Barriss Offee as an Inquisitor.
Right.
How do you feel now?
Right. It's kind of funny. I don't know. That's the one thing. I'm going to go right there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So that is the one thing I can't really wrap my head around is why there's so much desire for this character from the Clone Wars we all like, right? We want to know what happens because, her departure from the Clone Wars was kind of big, okay? And we all want to know what's going on with Barriss. And we, during Rebels, there's these Inquisitors and this and, all that. It's like, oh, Barriss must be in why this fan desire to have these characters we like turn to the dark side. Always got to go evil. I don't understand that. As a Star Wars fan for as long as I've been, Star Wars it started out anyway as the hero's journey. It's about, farm boy turning into hero. You understand where I'm coming from? I cannot understand why there's this desire to take all these characters that, and Barriss was a Jedi Padawan, friends with Ahsoka, blah blah blah, all that good stuff, and she's, gotta go to the dark side. Which, okay, guess we got to see it. Kind of went back and forth on it here in the show, but yeah. Anyway, sorry, I had to get that out.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, like, and I think it's taking the Yoda comments and things like that too seriously, right? Like, oh, once you start down the dark path, like, yeah, Yoda said that, but Luke did it.
Well, think about, okay.
Anakin did it. Anakin was redeemed.
Yes, absolutely. Now, but you have to consider who Yoda's talking to at the time. He's talking to Luke, who is at a very delicate stage of his Jedi development. You know what I'm saying? He is at that stage where he could go either way with, light or dark. And he's trying to help nudge him towards the light. So, as any parent or teacher can understand, you want to try and convey certain things to your charges, and it's like, you're trying to be careful, at a delicate spot in their development,
Yeah.
That's what I see with that whole scene with Yoda, So I don't know necessarily, especially given Yoda's, what would you call it? Not necessarily that he's gone to the dark side, but he has seen the darkness within himself. We saw in the Clone Wars.
Right.
So it's it's not like he doesn't know, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I just all this to say, yes, Barriss became an Inquisitor, right?
Yes. For about 10 minutes.
Right. Well, that's all the episode was. But yeah.
I mean, I not to walk away from that so fast, right? Like,
okay.
I understand. Like, everyone thought Rey was gonna fall, right? Like,
right. But it's almost like there's this fan desire for that to happen, though.
But it's almost like everyone has to flip sides no matter what. Kylo's gonna come back to the light, right? Like, this is.
Oh yeah, I know.
This is what the fans want. Like, they just want whoever's on what side to flip sides.
Right.
Like, look,
because
come on.
It's never been done before in Star Wars. Wait. No.
And you know what? You're right. And that would have been awesome if Kylo would have flipped back to the light and Rey went dark and they're fighting each other from the opposite side that they started at.
Oh, that would
have been kick-ass.
That'd have been more interesting, yeah.
Well, it definitely would have been more interesting.
Huh. Now you got me thinking for a second here.
Yeah. So, come on. Episode 10 through 12, let's go.
Exactly.
You thought you knew what was going to happen, but we flipped it on you. Right. That'll be the time where people finally go, you know what? Fuck it. I'm done with Star Wars.
That's, you know what? It probably would happen. That's crazy because I could almost get behind that.
Kill it if you have to.
Right. God. It's I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just not there, I guess. You know what I mean?
Right. So, I will say that this, what would you call it? Block of 3 episodes. This arc.
Yes, an arc. Yeah.
Honestly made me happy.
Happy.
Yes. Because I'm like watching the trailer going, there is no way that the Barriss Offee that we saw in the Clone Wars turns to the dark side and becomes an Inquisitor. I'm sorry. That's not who she was.
Right.
Did she do questionable things? Absolutely. Was she a Darksider? Hell no.
Right. And when you say questionable things, you're referring to what? The Clone Wars period or in this arc?
The Clone Wars period.
Okay. Because, I would agree with you. And when you when
you
really...
look back on it, if they followed Barriss, they might not have lost the Jedi Order. But
right. But the Jedi as a whole weren't seeing clearly, They admit as much, So I don't know. You're right. I have to say it's pretty clear that she was more on the right track than the whole order was. Yeah.
I know this is not an exact comparison because George didn't create the character I'm about to compare this to, whereas Dave did create this character.
Okay.
But Barriss Offee was kind of becoming Dave's Mara Jade.
Oh, I could see that. I mean, yeah.
Where it's like this character that everybody became interested in, and Dave never really did anything with it, but this is such an interesting character and things like that. Dave's like, okay, I'm going to give you a pretty good story.
Right.
But then I'm going to kill her, so you can't do this to me anymore.
I like that.
and I have a feeling that George is sitting back right now watching these episodes going, damn it! I could have killed Mara Jade.
Right. Exactly.
I could have done what they wanted, gave them a pretty good story, and then just killed her.
Right.
Like so. Well played, Dave. Well played.
Exactly. I like it. I like that. I like that theory. It's a good thought.
Because he could have left her, look, she never turned. And he could have left her out there in the ether, right? Like, now people are wondering, well, what she do next? And blah, 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 blah. No. I never meant for this to happen. So, yeah.
Right. So, story-wise here, what are your thoughts on the path that things took here? I mean, I think it was pretty clear, even when Barriss agreed to you know, what was that? Lynn, you know, saying, I've got a proposition for you, or an opportunity.
And I think agreed is a loose term.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like it's either you do this, or these guys are pointing blasters at you. So
yeah,
you know, it's
but I like the way they did that, because they played on Barris's belief that the Jedi were being steered wrong, that they were taking a wrong approach.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's what they told her. You were right.
You were right.
Yeah.
You know, like they played on that. And then her confusion on what happened, like why is the Jedi Temple being attacked, right? Like,
right.
So she's confused about why everything's going down the way she sees it through her cell window.
Yes.
So they played on her confusion and ignorance of events, and coupled that with her beliefs that landed her there in order to just at least get her in the room.
Yep.
Right.
Well, you talk about getting her in the room. Even like everyone's in on it, right? So even the Grand Inquisitor knew he had to explain to Barriss, like, oh, there's an empire now, you know?
Right.
And that just goes to show, you know, how out of the loop she is. But she also is aware enough to know that, you know, hey, if I try to like take off out of here, I'm probably going to die, you know? So, I mean, you know, skipping around in the story a little bit here, but it's, you know.
Well, we can't go changing it up now. Like,
oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to imagine that Barriss is feeling things within the Force.
Oh yeah.
That are confusing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially since there's more Jedi that embraced the change than you thought.
That's the interesting part, isn't it? It's funny.
Because during Order 66, it didn't seem like they gave him a question, right? Like,
right.
Like, hey, which side you on? Huh?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, they shot him in the back.
Right. Shot him in the back, shot him out of the sky, shot him, you know. Absolutely.
But here, new leadership is, you know, this Jedi Master and this Temple Guard and this, like, okay, what? Like, were they approached beforehand? Here's where you got some splaining to do.
Exactly.
Not what Barriss was doing. Here's where you got some splaining to do.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I like that. So
you almost got to wonder if Palpatine was in the ear of more Jedi than just Anakin.
Oh,
and you know what? It just makes sense that he would be.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, if novelizations are to be believed, and like, you know, they generally give more insight into like characters' thoughts and things than what's on screen. Yeah, he was. So he was actually controlling more things than we can clearly see, you know. But it's interesting because we see Barriss. She's got that. Oh, what is the term I'm looking for? Concern, right? She is concerned about what's going on. She's concerned about people, but she also had that attitude. Is like, what does the Order want with me now? And this Lynn character is like, I'm not here on behalf of the Order anymore, right? So, and then, you know, push comes to shove, you put her back against the wall. She's ready to force choke this dude in order to move forward. So it's interesting to see how, you know,
I don't think her force choke was so much to move forward, just to stay alive.
yeah, survive. Exactly. Well, I mean, that's
There's
part of
definitely
move-
some self-preservation there,
it's
which
to move forward.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just done. That's where you stop.
choke this dude or die.
Right.
Easy choice. So
So yes, it was in self-defense, but she was also weaponless. So it was like, almost, what other choice do you have? Yeah, other than
Right.
a force push into the hole, you know, force choke him first, and then push him in the hole.
well, I mean, just a forced push into the hole wouldn't have been as entertaining.
Yeah, and honestly, she might have had the it's not forethought. It's the wherewithal to know that something like that is what the Grand Inquisitor is going to be kind of looking for, right? He wasn't happy with, when he was doing his one-on-one training with her, he wasn't happy with her until she
Made him bleed.
made him bleed. Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, there is that part of it. So, but she was never fully committed, right? I think that was pretty clear.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. She was still a Jedi. Like,
Right.
a Jedi with, questionable things on her record, but
Yeah, but
when it boiled down to it, she was still a Jedi.
she was doing what she had to survive in her circumstance, right?
And not only that, but like she also did, like, looking at all the other things, what she thought was morally right.
Right.
She wasn't going to kill those villagers. She couldn't kill that child. It's just not right.
Right, exactly.
It wasn't about any empire or objective or anything like that for her. It was about, like, doing the right thing. And they played her because she thought the Jedi weren't doing the right thing.
Exactly.
It's kind of her whole story arc.
Yeah.
So, no, I liked the way that was executed. Because Barriss didn't, like, betray the Order because she fell to the dark side. Barriss betrayed the Order because she didn't think the Order aligned with what the Order told her to believe.
Exactly.
She didn't believe she was fighting for peace and justice and things like that anymore.
Well,
Hell, I would venture to say she didn't know it yet, but she felt that she was fighting for a Sith.
right.
I mean, she all but says it. She all but says that the Jedi are influenced from, evil, essentially.
Oh, right, right.
Turns out she was right.
Right.
So, yeah, I thought the way they did this was great, because I did not want to see Barriss end up as an Inquisitor. and one they had to explain later on in some other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other part of the whole my complaint, right? Is we have characters and stuff that we don't have full explanations for or whatever, and it's like we don't have to all the time, you know. It's you know what I mean? It's like, oh, who's this Inquisitor? Oh, it must be Barriss. It's like, no, doesn't have to be.
Take a step back, save some for later.
Right.
Like, yes, is it something we want to see later? Yes. Do we need to see it right now? No.
And not to mention, it's like if you can make a good story out of it, make a good story out of it. Don't do it just for the sake of, you know, someone had this idea, so hey, it must be now, you know.
Which I gotta say, these episodes did a lot for 45 minutes apiece. I'm saying the arcs.
Okay.
These stories did a lot for 45 minutes apiece for each story arc. Kind of impressive, really. Because normally shorts don't have an impact.
Yeah, not like this. Anyway.
I mean, I'd say both of these had a fantastic impact. I mean, you managed to get me finally curious in Morgan Elspeth.
Look, I will say that one was good for what it was, right? I mean, you know, was I clamoring to know more about Morgan? Not necessarily, but now that I did, okay, cool.
Right?
And then this one, I'm almost in the same boat, right? If there's part of me that feels like, you know, they were feeling pressured maybe to do a story like this, because I don't know. And that's what sparked this story.
Well, I mean, for the nobility of a character,
but
right?
But for me, I would like to think that a story like this would come to pass because somebody says, "Ooh, I've got a great idea," not because it's like, "Oh, the fans want this." You know what I'm saying? That's my biggest thing. Is I want that spark, you know, of from a creator, from a creative mind.
Well, it was a nice way to split the difference, right?
Yeah.
Because for those who wanted her to fall to the dark side and become an Inquisitor, you got a taste of that.
Yeah, for sure.
But for those who wanted her to stay noble and stuff like that, you got a story that did that.
Yep.
But she didn't stay all noble along the way.
Right.
Because if she stayed noble all along the way, she dies in her jail cell. You know, like...
Yep, exactly.
Granted, dying in her jail cell, she doesn't get the chance to help anybody along the way. But she wasn't on the side of help to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
So, well, I guess we reached that point, right? Like,
yeah, pretty much. I mean, we essentially got to see Barriss in, you know, 3 different stages of her life, right?
Yes.
And it was, that part for me was well done. I enjoyed the story. Okay. I think it was, you know, a good conclusion. Okay. If, you know, no one can say, hey, we need to know what happened to Barriss Offee anymore. Hey, we know. So,
I'll be honest. That's the best part of this. It's the best part. Like, there is no more trying to fit Barriss into every single Inquisitor helmet or
right.
Darksider helmet or anything for the future now.
I love the way you just put that. There's no trying to fit her into an Inquisitor helmet anymore. Because that's what people were doing. You know? Hey,
I mean,
this character has green skin. You know, must be Barriss. It's like, wait a minute.
Dude, you're seeing a random, really nondescript Inquisitor for the Mandalorian. Or Ahsoka, whichever one. Right? Like, just either one.
Yep.
And what's the first thing that comes out of people's mouths? Oh, is that Barriss?
Right.
No.
Exactly.
No, and you know what? I'm this is one of those moments where I'm glad to see that my thoughts were right. There's no way that come the era of Ahsoka, Barriss Offee is a Darksider fighting for the Empire.
Right.
Or remnants of the Empire.
Right.
Like, this is not who Barriss Offee was. Like, I thought I paid attention during the Clone Wars, and I just did not see this.
Exactly.
You know, I saw a character who, yes, did some questionable stuff and was confused about the order she served. That did not mean she was ready to go killing children.
Right.
All right? Like, let's just...
Exactly. And I will say, I thought that's where they were going to go with this, is that the Inquisitor Lyn there was going to try and make Barriss kill that kid. But
yeah, and I thought that's where they were going to go too.
They didn't.
But they did do a good enough job insinuating that that was a possibility.
Right.
For me to go, yes, this is a line that Barriss will not cross.
Right.
And even the innocence, like watching as everything else is going on, seeing Barriss's reaction even from behind a helmet in animation, I'm like, that's not a character that can do that.
Yep.
Which lines up with what I believed about Barriss to begin with. Barriss didn't rebel or anything like that against the Jedi because she was feeling like becoming a Sith tomorrow. She did it because she thought they were on the wrong path and that they were not fulfilling their duties, that she was led to believe was the right way.
Yeah.
So her intentions were always noble, I guess. Her intentions were always kind of noble. Protect the innocent.
Right.
You know? Stuff like that. And she felt the Jedi lost sight of that. That's why she did what she did.
Yeah.
So I never felt that Barriss was going to be a Darksider.
At least not for long, right? I mean,
yeah, okay, you entertain the idea for a second, but then you sit back and think about it, it's like, that's not who she was.
Right.
She was never that. Yeah, okay. Was she ready to fight the Jedi? Sure.
Right.
But she thought the Jedi were on the wrong side.
Yep.
She said that shit.
Exactly.
So, no, I like the way they played that out. I know it's hard to do because you got 45 minutes to tell an entire arc of the second half of a character's life.
Yep. So that being said, overall, they did a good job at that. I mean,
yes.
You know.
Yes, and it's cool that they made something so on the surface insignificant. They made that significant.
Right.
Because This is telling literally the last portion of a character's life that you had on a cliffhanger from the Clone Wars.
Right. Exactly.
So to do that in 45 minutes and doing it in a way that works, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's weird. I didn't think that was less material than season 3 of The Bad Batch, but hey. Hey, if they can wrap up season 3 of The Bad Batch in an hour episode, they can do this.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but at least they didn't abandon storytelling in this and make it some flashy, she's an Inquisitor now, hack and slash,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes.
I'm happy for that.
I agree.
They were able to stick to it, make it a story, make it compelling, and make you realize that you knew that about this character. You just didn't want to believe it for whatever reason.
Right.
So I like that.
That's good.
So, well, if you have anything to add, you can always email us, show@thewarsandmore.com. That's the best way to get a hold of us. We're also on social media, at The Wars and More on X, facebook.com/thewarsandmore. You can find all that and all the ways to find the show over at thewarsandmore.com. Any final thoughts this week, Doug?
No, I think we've about covered it.
All right. We will talk next week.